guys, and today we're going to look at Shroomie tournament and kind of get a feel for the different groups that are out there and kind of see who's doing well and how well they're doing. Right now I've got bets on Daydream, and so Daydream is basically a profit with these kind of stats. So you'll kind of notice it doesn't have anything in a Counter-Strike combo or crit rate. It's got very kind of a highish ignore evasion and normal evasion. Where you really see where it goes up a notch though is you'll see his skill crit jumps up to 57%. Skill damage is at 1400%. His PAL damage is at 415. His healing rate's at 31. And he's getting about something shy of 1,800 or so for his attack and defense. If we look at his HP bonus, so his pals are giving him 30k, where you can even see like another 5k in skills. He's got a little over 20 or 30k coming off of tech. Where you really start to see things differs, like his artifacts are definitely pumping him up. His parking slots are pumping him up. There's a fair bit coming off of his back accessory. And then to add, insult to injury, he's also got some statue bonuses. They're giving him some extra health, and that's going to give him every little bit of ounce that he'll need. If we look at his attack stats, you'll see kind of a similar theme here. It's, again, one of the things that jumps out to me is, when you look at a lot of these higher level players, it's one part of it is, you'll notice that so he's using Dense Cloud. It's good for profit, because you're trying to basically get as much energy as you can. He's got skill crit coming off of the actual mount, so he's pretty much trying to proc as many attacks as he can, and he's more than likely using Crimson Moonfall based on the relic that we see there. So you have that paired up with another profit and kind of a similar situation here, but a different back accessory, using the new back accessory as opposed to using the bleeding damage AoE that you get with the wings. So a little different approach. He wants to use Blitz Assault, it looks like, and how he's going about it, we can kind of poke around here and see. And again, a very comparable set here. Not focusing on evasion so much, and not doubling down too much in any one thing really, so much as his skill damage is super high. He's got 75% skill crit, so he has a stupid amount of skill crit. He's going to crit pretty frequently. If we look at his HP, it looks like, again, his pals, 42k. There's a lot of stats coming in from tech and pals. But you can see his overarching amount of HPs, coming off of mounts, statue, the artifact. And then he's got even some coming in from some of his souls, and he's got quite a bit coming off of awakened seals, with only 70 some odd percent coming off of back accessory, and he's even got another 20% or so coming off of costumes, plus the hull, which if you didn't know that's part of season. But the main thing here, right, is just by looking at this, you can kind of get the idea. Now, I'm sure you probably are wondering, where is the skill damage coming from? Well, you can see a lot of it is coming off of both a mount. A lot of it's coming off of souls, the awakened seal, and then he's got 500% coming off of enchant, 200% coming off of his back accessory, and then 5% off of global skill damage and enchant, which that's obviously going to amount to a fair bit. And that's just on skill damage. Now, if we look at skill crit, you'll see his equipment is giving him 20%, 15% because of his class, 20%, doing part of pals, and 5% off the relic, and then 15% on the mount. So, he's got quite a bit of DPS going for him there. Naturally, he's going to be able to succeed probably in some combination of fights. But what you don't see a whole lot of is any emphasis on stun and regeneration. You don't really see anything. It's almost purely all skill crit and skill damage. And it's a purist's dream when it comes to being a prophet. But you tend to find that that is true of anybody that plays a prophet class, is that generally speaking, almost kind of like a Plume Monarch, they just really go heavy healed over on the amount of combo they have. But how efficient really is that? Come to find that most of the time, in the case of a Plume Monarch, it's not as useful, but it seems to be working fine for prophet builds. If we look at this player here, it looks like he's got a Plume Monarch build here. And then again, kind of like I suspected, a fair amount of combo and crit, super high combo and crit rate. Has almost next to nothing on Counter-Strike. Stupid amounts of damage being done by both crit and also combo. It's a 33k combo. I'm kind of curious where all that combo is coming from. So we've got 2,000 coming in from Souls, 510% coming off of global combo. So a large chunk of it is coming out of the statue, which, surprise, surprise. 2,000 coming off of the soul. It's got 900% coming off of the handbook. So yeah, it's just a ridiculously good example of a Plume Monarch build, though. As like I said, very rarely do I ever see one that's paired in one or the other. They almost completely do both. So we could see how this one's doing, because he's got the new mount. Let's take a look here. So this guy, he's running a Martial Sage build, so we would expect that his counter is going to be pretty high. So yeah, he's got 76% counter strike. Doesn't seem to be investing a whole lot of anything else. He's got some crit damage and some basic attack. And for some mysterious reason, he has 6,000 combo, but he has 38k counter. Wow, that's a lot of counter damage on the multiplier there. So, in a way, you can almost kind of start to see how this seems to be working out. It's like a lot of these players are just going heavy over heal into one thing, if you're looking at like your warriors, but we don't see that as much with Plume Monarch as much nowadays. It's like this build here is 85% crit and 97% counter-strike. That's more of what I would expect to see. So here, like 107% combo, 73% crit rate. So, it's a pretty ridiculous amount, but wonder if we can find anybody using the new build, or class for that matter. Plume Monarch. Nope. I'll check over here, maybe. Martial Sage. Yeah, just a lot of Martial Sage. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's look at Barbecue Party here. That's Prophet. That's a Plume Monarch. There's a lot of traditional builds. You don't really see anybody using the new class yet, but I'm still struggling my way through it, but I like to think I'll eventually crack the Enigma code that is this build. Eventually I'll have it down to where it'll actually work out really well. Because I think the 20% deploy effect is pretty good. It's not enough to argue for Beastmaster yet, but I may be wrong. I don't know. See, yeah, I would say at least from what we can tell, that's kind of the general gist, though, as far as the actual Shroomie tournament event goes. And again, the main thing, guys, is if you want to get the most out of it, just basically buy as much guess coins you can. Pick the best possible winner, which you can usually make that assessment based on power, but like I said, most of the ones that I've ever seen that do successful as far as profit goes seem to use some combination of having a really high skill crit and a lot of skill damage. But on the same token, there are just as many players that seem to be heavy on, going combo and crit or counter-striking crit and some variation of the two, depending on the type of build they're playing, right? But the main thing here that I'm after, if anything, is magic lamp keys. Now you can pick up like flame keys, you can pick up a lot of different stuff in here, but like me personally, I'm after the lamp keys because I am having to struggle through re-specking a whole new set of gear, and I don't really care where I get it. But what I'm doing is basically doing pal crit, and it's taking a while, but we're getting there. It's just I'm ultimately hoping to get more pal crit and more crit rate, I think, is really kind of what I'm aiming for, but we'll see how it plays out. To me, I think pal crit and crit rate together would work really well because that's just going to give you a very high crit. So regardless of what you're doing, you know, you're always going to be doing some damage. Now, like right now, you can see my crit rate's pretty low, my combo's pretty low. You know, my crit damage is fairly high, but on the same token, I don't know, I've tweaked around. So like right now we're running a crit set. If I go over to my pal damage set, I can kind of give you an idea of what you're going to expect when you go with this particular approach. And I don't know, maybe there's a way to do it. I just haven't found a way to do it yet. Because I've got 600% pal damage here, right? And then this is like my older, you know, obviously for my Plume Monarch, but it'll work fine for this. I mean, at some point I'll probably tweak it so that we'll get more towards the actual event items, that is, but we're just not there yet. And I would love to get something that is actually in use for the pals themselves. I just, again, like I said, you know, trying to get pal damage is going to be a nightmare. Because if anything, the main thing that's holding me back in this build right now, I think, is just the amount of damage that I'm missing from a soul. So we're going like crazy in ranked matches, and we're trying to get ourselves the points needed to basically get that achieved. You know, because then once you've actually acquired that, then only then do you actually get any further. I guess some people may be asking me roughly like, well, okay, where's the next clue? Where's this? The next clue is in a fairly easy place to find. I'm not going to do a whole lot of these clues because some of these clues are just too easy. You know, like the last one was in the volcano, okay? In case you're wondering, you go to the Blazing Cave, you'd find it in the bottom left. I mean, it's not a terribly hard thing to find, but I'm sure somebody out there may be watching these, and like I said, well, but anyway. So, that said, for the most part, though, guys, if you haven't already, make sure you take advantage of the 30% off on these. And, you know, again, if you want to save some money along the way, then watch the end of the video. And I'll see you guys next time.